Dollar up by 24,178.02 cents U.S. At the Business Center, I'm Chris McCusker. If your head wants to plan for retirement, but your heart wants...
Two Toronto cops got stabbed. Boeing changed their way of giving out bonuses, so they're getting bonuses this year. Oh, fuck. Here we go. 20 seconds in. So I've been at this for about 20 or 30 minutes. Oh, dear. Keep it up. Keep it up. All sorts of craziness today.
Not revealing her intentions to roast and consume them.
When you're dyslexic, no story is simple. Learn more at itread.org.
Taking a look at some regional weather conditions in Oshawa, it's partly cloudy, -4. A few clouds, -3 in Milton. Orangeville, sunshine, and -5. Right now in downtown Toronto, we have a partly cloudy sky. It is -3 with a wind chill of -9. The news watch never stops. 680 News is CFTR AM Toronto. It's 1 o'clock.
Toronto's #1 for breaking news, traffic, and weather. This is 680 News. Well, good afternoon. This is Tuesday, the 2nd of February. I'm Steve Roberts.
And I'm Sarah Paris. Here's what's making news this hour. 2 Toronto police officers have serious injuries after being stabbed during a wellness check in the West End. A man has been arrested at the scene in Royal York and Lawrence West.
A COVID-19 vaccine made right here in Canada. The Prime Minister announcing a new domestic production deal, although the shops won't start rolling out for many months.
Ontario's daily COVID-19 case numbers count with a big footnote. This as the province updates its vaccine rollout plan.
Oh, yeah, we're down to 2,000 or 4,000
more confident with the Leafs every day. Raptors look for another win over the Magic. Sports at 15.
The U.S. market is up by at least 1.5%. That's even with GameStop taking a hit. And the gold stocks are holding Bay Street back. Business at 26. 680 News Time, 1:01.
All right, now time for traffic and weather together on the ones. Here's Carrie Prunskis.
This report is brought to you by On Honda Dealers. We've had a couple of debris calls in the last little while, so be careful on the northbound 427 as you're approaching Dixon in lane 2, some metal debris there. And westbound 401 approaching Meadowvale and the collectors, the center lane affected with more debris. I'll check with the MTO, see if they've made it to either of those spots. Now, we just had a brief problem on the eastbound 401 east of Mississauga Road. A stalled vehicle was just removed, so that's why it's jammed up as you approach Mississauga Road. But just that minor delay building through that stretch. Once you're past it, it's wide open. And we have a smooth drive on the rest of the major routes. There is some construction in Brampton westbound on Steeles at Goreway. The right lane is closed, so expect a backup as you approach Goreway. At the Honda Dream Garage event, get a $500 Honda bonus on most 2021 CRV models. Shop online at HondaOntario.com. And now with the forecast, here's Jill Taylor. And actually, we'll get to Jill a little later. Happening now, let's go live to Queen's Park, where Premier Ford is giving an update.
And eligible in all long-term care homes in many regions, including Toronto, Peel, York, Windsor-Essex.
30 minutes ago, I was going to go get coffee. I'm going to do that.
Ottawa,
Fuck you, Doug.
Muskoka.
You want things run half-assed?
As of February 1st, we administered over 344,000 doses of the vaccines, with over 70,000 fully vaccinated. And beginning this week,
my neighborhood has 500,000 people. That's real helpful.
In First Nations flying communities in the north as part of Operation Remote Immunity.
There's First Nations communities and there's remote
steady supply of vaccines. It's clear we need to start production of COVID vaccines right here in Canada. We need to ensure that our ability to protect our citizens is not compromised by a lack of vaccine supply. We need a reliable source of vaccines in this country as soon as possible, and I will continue pushing for that. In the meantime, we continue to build our capacity, so when we receive enough supply for mass vaccinations, we will be ready. We currently have the capacity to vaccinate 40,000 people per day, and we'll be able to triple or quadruple that pending the federal government supply. Getting vaccinated is our path to normal. So when it's your turn, please go get the vaccine. Until then, I couldn't be any clearer. Please stay home, stay safe, and save lives. Thank you, and God bless the people of Ontario. Now I'll pass it over to General Hillier.
Oh, this idiot.
Premier, thank you, and ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. We were told this Friday that we weren't getting any, or we had a reduction in Moderna, and last week we didn't get any Pfizer. This week we're expecting today, tomorrow to receive about 26,000 doses, the same next week. And so we are in a bit of a drought, there is no question. Yesterday I was out to Guelph and visited the public health unit Guelph and looked at their mass vaccination site, which was empty. I went to Sunnybrook Hospital and their mass vaccination site and looked at it, which was empty. And they have the capacity of several thousand each per day and the possibility to ramp up past that. So all of us are a little disappointed, a little frustrated, and chomping at the bit to do more and get the vaccines to us. We're waiting for our next delivery of Moderna, which will come in on the 5th, the 6th, or the 7th along that time frame, and it will immediately go into the arms of people, the residents in those long-term care homes around the rest of Ontario that we have not yet been able to vaccinate. We haven't wasted our time while we have been waiting for those vaccines to arrive, however. We've been concentrating on ensuring that people who have had one needle, Pfizer or Moderna, will be guaranteed the second. And yes, we have mitigated the challenge in vaccine supply by delaying the interval on the Pfizer to 35 days as a normal thing while supply is still tight, and going out to 42 days if absolutely essential. We hope to not have to go to 42 days. We want also not only to guarantee the second needles and arms, but to complete as quickly as possible, even in this reduced supply, vaccinating the residents in those long-term care homes, the high-risk retirement homes, and the elder long-term care homes that we have not yet gotten to around the rest of the province of Ontario, as I said. And at the same time, we continue with what we are calling Operation Remote Immunity, and the Premier mentioned it. We started some 3 weeks ago with vaccines into the arms of residents and elder long-term care facilities in 3 communities along James Bay. And yesterday, 6 teams under the capable leadership of Dr. Homer Tien, supported by Horing, supported by medical professionals out of Queen's University, compliments of the Dean of Medicine there, supported by a company called Callian, who've had contracted nurses and people who are going to help vaccinate people in those isolated communities, all part of one team, all of whom have received their vaccinations, and all of whom are now, as of yesterday, heading into those communities, those 6 teams to vaccinate. One of the teams arrived late yesterday afternoon, tired after a long day of travel that was interrupted by weather, and yet the community was waiting for them. They wanted the vaccine, so they started vaccinating, and indeed vaccinated through to almost midnight last night. All of the teams have been doing that since they left yesterday morning, and now we have more than 2,000 vaccinations in the arms of residents, elderly and residents and caregivers in those isolated communities that they've started. And they will continue to roll this program out. We've done more than that also. We've carried on with our planning. We've worked with each of the 34 public health units across the province of Ontario and the medical officers of health who run them, who have responsibility for delivering health care. They will run out the vaccination program to the last part of phase 1 and into phase 2 when we expect more and more doses of vaccines. We gave them our plan, asked for theirs in return. We've received them, we've gone through them with them, and now we're going through tabletop drills with most of the public health units to work their plan, to see where we can assist them, to see where we can remove obstacles from their path, and in some cases, to see where we can simply get out of the way and let them carry on with that plan. And while we're doing that, as they finalize their plans, we're driving hard to make sure we have the IT framework in place to support registering online, to support getting a vaccination appointment, and to support getting your data in there so that when you show up at the clinic, it is as an efficient process as possible. And then you also, by the way, book your second appointment for your second needle to complete the immunization program. And we're also working to lay the communications education for the public so they understand the vaccinations. All this is happening now, so we want to be ready in case more vaccines show up unexpectedly. The public health units are working through 3 main lines heading forward in phase 2. Number 1 is the age bracket group. And we're not there yet simply because we don't have the vaccines. But that priority will start with 80-plus-year-olds, 75-plus-year-olds, 70-year-olds, and we'll move down each bracket as the numbers start to diminish showing up for vaccinations, because we will have gotten through most of that group. Secondly, and concurrently, we'll roll out special vaccination clinics, mobile vaccination clinics, if you will, community vaccination clinics, roaming vaccination clinics. Each of the public health units calls them something differently at times, and they will go into our communities at risk and get at some of those populations who will not go online to get their information. Multi-generational family, of course, living in one dwelling at times, and the kind of people that sometimes are reluctant to come to mass vaccination sites. So we want to be able to go right into their communities and be able to let them know what is available to protect them from COVID-19 and to offer them vaccinations in a fair and effective manner right where they live as much as possible. And then thirdly, the essential workers would be a part of phase 2, and we would look at being able to vaccinate. And our priority table now is working through essential workers and deciding how, in the combination of educators and police and firefighters and farm workers and meat plant workers who guarantee our food supply, how we would work that priority. The public health units are looking at 3 main streams of vehicles to deliver those. Number 1 are the mass vaccination sites. We saw an example in each of the hospitals up till now. We saw an example at the Metro Toronto Convention Centre when Toronto Public Health, for a short period of time, ran a mass vaccination site. We will replicate those around the province to 50 or 75 or even more to give us the immense capacity. And that may be where essential workers will go, because it would be easy to delineate. For example, it might be an easy way to say, close a school district for a day, take all the educators, go to that mass vaccination site, receive your vaccine, and 21 or 28 days later come back and do it all over again. And that minor disruption, and it's not minor, but that disruption would be minor to all the schools that we've lost so far because of this pandemic. Secondly, to get at the age bracket and be able to offer them those vaccines, particularly those who are mobile, we would look at family physicians, perhaps coalesced in one group to do all of their patients and offering them the vaccine, but also the pharmacies throughout Ontario. The Premier said it this morning during a meeting with the Chamber of Commerce about how crucial the pharmacies will be to our rollout. All 4,600 pharmacies in Ontario won't be vaccination sites. A lot of them will, however, and maybe those will be more robustly staffed by the pharmacy change. But through there, we can easily delineate that on certain weeks in April, May, we would have age groups 80 and up, 75 and up, and 70 to 75, and so on down the age line. And it would be easy to make an appointment at a pharmacy and go get your vaccine there. And I've already talked about mobile vaccination sites or community-based vaccination sites or on-site vaccination clinics that would run to look at those communities that are at risk. That's going to start late March, early April, depending on the arrival of vaccines in bigger numbers. Between now and then, we're going to concentrate on those second needles. Make sure we get them into the arms of the people who have had their first needle. We're going to finish off vaccinating and offer the opportunity for a vaccination to the residents in the long-term care homes, high-risk retirement homes, and elder care facilities. And then we're going to go back to those homes once more vaccines arrive and offer that same opportunity to the essential caregivers and the healthcare workers and the staff who work in the homes that we simply don't have enough vaccines to help vaccinate right now. And then we want to reach out to the retirement homes across Ontario. There are more than 700 of them. About 200 have already had vaccination clinics at the home. And so we want to work through the rest of them, offering that level of protection. And then most importantly, we also want to work with the First Nations and Indigenous people of Ontario and work through the First Nations reserves around Ontario based on a priority matrix that their leadership has been helping to develop. We want to do all of those things from the 15th of February, when we will start to see more vaccines arriving, through to the end of March. And then also at the same time, pick up those remaining healthcare workers that we have not yet gotten to with the vaccines and be ready to roll into phase 2, as I said earlier. We can't lay out a specific date and time for when an age bracket will be available or have vaccines available. What we're telling you is the sequencing of how we will do it. And when the vaccines arrive, we can be more precise and more specific and talk about where you should actually go. And that's what our comm strategy will run out and lay out and publicly articulate over this next week here. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll stop there. Thank you.
We'll go over to the phones for questions. questions from Laura Stone at the Golden Vale. Please go ahead.
Hi, Laura.
Hi there. Thanks so much for taking my questions. I wanted to start, Premier, by asking you, you mentioned in your opening remarks about the need to ramp up domestic production.
Yes.
Of course, we heard from the Prime Minister today that Ottawa plans to do that, but it sounds like that won't be live until the end of this year. So, I mean, what do you make of the fact that this doesn't seem to be at least a very short-term solution? And do you have faith in the federal government's promises to vaccinate all Canadians by September and for 3 million Canadians to be vaccinated, at least receive a dose by the end of March? What do you make of that in light of the supply issues that we're experiencing?
Sure. Well, first of all, great question, Laura. And I've been saying right from the get-go, I wish we'd be able to, produce the vaccines here. We have the know-how, we have the knowledge, we have enough pharmaceutical companies, especially here in Ontario. And if there's one thing that I would wish we would have done a long time ago, with the support of the federal government in saying that, I'm glad that we're starting to do this, and hopefully we'll never face another pandemic. How much dumb shit did he say so far? Always good to have backup and a company that is able to produce the vaccines. And as for confidence about getting everyone vaccinated, I can't speak for the federal government or the rest of the provinces. I have the total confidence in General Hillier and the task force table, both ministers, that if we get the vaccines that we need, we will get everyone vaccinated who wants to be vaccinated by appropriate time. And I'd leave that up to General Hillier, but it's all based on getting the vaccines. And hopefully, as the General said, if we had all the vaccines in the world that we needed, we could probably get it done sometime in July. But again, the uncertainty is a real problem. If you look at it, since we've rolled out these vaccines, General Hillier and his team has had to change their plans 3 times, and that's tough, especially the size and the population of Ontario.
Follow-up?
Thanks, Premier. I wanted to seek some clarity from you about a story we wrote in the Globe and Mail today about Brooks Ballas, who led the ICU at William Osler. He's claiming that you placed a call to the CEO of William Osler, complaining or criticizing his comments regarding Ontario's pandemic response, that you somehow interfered in this. Can you speak to whether you have ever spoken to Dr. Mohammed about this doctor or any other doctor for that instance? No. And if you can respond to some concerns out there in the medical community that you or your government are trying to clamp down on dissent or criticism of the pandemic.
That's 100% totally false. I think Dr. Mohammed at William Osler has addressed this. We don't get involved in any HR issues at all in any hospitals. I would never direct the CEO to promote or fire someone. It just never happened. So I guess they'll deal with it, and I'll leave it at that, because I just don't do that. It just doesn't happen. I welcome ideas, and there's some docs that disagree with the docs that we have. I welcome that. Reach out to them. I welcome when the media tells us there's issues, and I've said that from day one. Even Lisa at CBC, for instance, because of Lisa's comments, we're getting air conditioning in long-term care. So I welcome the ideas. It doesn't bother me someone disagrees or agrees or whatever. We have a job to do, and we're going to do it.
Next question. From Lorenda Redicott at CBC News. Please go ahead.
Hi there, Premier. Those delays that we're seeing now for the long-term care homes, did your government make a mistake in terms of its priorities early on? And maybe this is also for the General.
A mistake in what? Vaccinating?
Yeah, vaccinating.
Well, to the contrary, Loretta. I remember some people were criticizing us because you know, we had one in the hand instead of two in the bush per se, and well, the general and the team decided it's better to hold on to some of these vaccinations, and there's proof in the pudding. You look at our friends over in Quebec and doing a great job, but they have 0 second vaccinations, 0. We have 70,000 already done because of the smart move that General Hillier and Task Force and ministers and everyone made the choice to be cautious. We were nervous about getting all the vaccines, and you know, we were proved to be right. Well, not me, the team. So that was a great choice on General Hillier's behalf. I'll pass it over to you, General.
Thank you for the question. When we first got the Pfizer, we realized we couldn't move it into the long-term care homes and then vaccinate the residents directly. So we took the next best approach, which the medical professionals assured us would give us a huge percentage of protection for those residents. That is to say, get the essential caregivers and the healthcare workers and the staff who work in the residents, and by whom the virus travels into the residents.
Precisely what I said they were doing wrong.
To get them to come to the vaccination center where the Pfizer has been delivered and vaccinate them. And we did that to the tune of tens of thousands of those staff for the long-term care homes and the higher risk retirement homes and retirement homes. And that was the first level of protection. And we started that. In fact, the first vaccination in Canada was into the arm of an essential caregiver from one of those long-term care homes here in Toronto. I think many of you saw that on TV. As soon as we got Moderna, we started moving it directly to the long-term care homes and high-risk retirement homes. In Toronto, the first day we received Moderna, 2 hours later, we had Moderna being injected into the arms of residents in home right here in Toronto, and we continue with that. Shortly after that, we got the protocols after working with.
Surprised you're not talking about chicken soup sales.
And we started moving it to long-term care homes right away, taking the finger on his challenge. So we did what was right based on the characteristics of the Pfizer, giving protection to the residents initially by vaccinating their caregivers to prevent the travel of the virus into the home through them. And
that's where the vaccine's supposed to be used, stupid. How many workers you got? How many hundreds of
vaccinating the residents itself. And we made huge progress in that. We all want to be faster. We all want to get it done. I assure you, people are consumed by this mission and want to get it done.
Can you just imagine this guy explaining why your kid died?
We're using every single one that we have to the best precision possible, if that's the way to put it. And we hope to be able to finish vaccinating the residents in any other homes. As the Premier said, by 10 February, we would have been finished by Friday if we had enough vaccines. So we're confident we had the best rollout possible, given the characteristics of Pfizer, the delivery of Moderna, and the challenges that we encountered there. Thank you.
Follow-up? And given that vaccines are out now, I'm thinking about the vaccines given to non-frontline hospital workers. We heard in the technical briefing it's unknown how many vaccines across the province that could add up to. Whose responsibility should that be? Is any of it on your government? And what do you think the consequences need to be here?
Well, before I pass it back to General Hillier, I think we've explained this more than once, probably a dozen times, that when there were seats open and people didn't show up for the appointment, we had two choices: either toss the vaccines in the garbage or find a healthcare worker to take the seat. So I'll pass it over to you, General.
And Premier, thank you. And really, just to confirm exactly that, we have a prioritization built by Dr. Dirk Heyer and his sub-table inside of the healthcare workers. That is a guiding parameter and framework, not a constraining one. If we stayed to it completely rigidly, we would have great difficulty getting needles in any more than a few arms per day. And we believe that speed trumps perfection. And my counsel to the people running the mass vaccination centers at that time, the CEOs of the hospital, was, look, we have this priority framework. It is a wonderful guiding document. Healthcare workers are in it and go out and do it. Do not be constrained to the point where we had, as the Premier said, we have empty seats and waste vaccines or missed opportunity to put a vaccine into somebody's arms. And that's exactly what they were doing. And were there changes where somebody higher up in that priority matrix should have gotten a vaccine and somebody lower down did? Yes. And we would catch
you asked him 5 minutes ago to do something. He's still telling me why it's not done yet.
You will not get perfection, and if you strive for it, if you strive for perfection in that matrix, you will slow down the vaccination process overall. We did not want to do that because we wanted to bring in a greater level of protection while still adhering to the healthcare workers as our number two priority, excuse me.
Next
No,
question.
they're the number one, you moron.
From Colin DeMello at CTV News. Please go ahead.
How do you fuck up that
Good afternoon,
bad?
everyone. Premier, my first
Immunology
question
is
is
a
for you.
made-up thing.
So Ontario got the
How do
first
you
shot
fuck
of
up
the
that bad?
COVID-19
You made
vaccine
it
on
up.
December 14th. Between that day and today, there have been 1,154 seniors who have died in long-term care homes. I'm wondering from you, Premier, could the government have saved lives by vaccinating long-term care homes
I wonder how
first?
many old people in my life I remember died already.
Well, again, that was our goal. If you remember, Colin, Pfizer gave us instructions that we couldn't move the vaccine. So our hands were tied. We were trying to
You
get
guys
the
are doing it
long-term care
stupid, we
frontline
know it.
workers, the PSWs, and we did get quite a few of them through the local hospitals. And UHN started. They did a great job. But if we had the flexibility at the time, we would have moved right in there immediately.
Sounds
And
like
when we
a-
found out we had the flexibility with the Pfizer and with Moderna, we made a move immediately. And it's tragic with long-term care right across the board. It's terrible. It's terrible what happened up in Barrie long-term care because the UK virus got in there and just went through there.
virus.
And we're doing something at the airport to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Follow-up?
Thank you, Premier. But what I don't understand is other jurisdictions, whether it's Quebec, they decided to take the Pfizer vaccine directly to the long-term care homes. We learned from the COVID-19 Science Advisory Table that in Israel, as an example, they repackaged the Pfizer vaccine in standalone freezer units and sent them to the most vulnerable people who needed them the most. Why back in December 14th did Ontario not do everything in its power to try to move the Pfizer vaccine? I guess a central question for the general as well. Did we ever ask Pfizer whether we could actually move the vaccine, or did we just take Pfizer at its word that they were not to be moved?
I'll pass it over to General Hire.
No, we took the advice of our medical professionals and our pharmacists who were in constant discussion with the Health Canada, the NACI for immunization guidelines and Pfizer itself. And we did not have permission to move the vaccine until, in fact, we started doing the protocols in early January to give us the protocols to be able to actually move it. And so, no, we didn't make a decision just to go by what Pfizer said and not ask any question. There was constant communication back and forth, constantly increasing the knowledge of the vaccine itself. I know what Israel did. We talked to the Minister of Health from Israel last Tuesday. We were inspired by the fact that the vast majority of what they are doing, we are also doing. We have also encountered, we have also planned to do.
Filling up all the brown people that were here first.
We took the advice of our medical professionals, working with Health Canada and NACI and Pfizer to make the decision to move Pfizer when the company said it was right to do and the protocols were in place.
We'll take one more reporter from the phone before we move to the floor.
Question from Brian Lilly at the Toronto Sun. Please go ahead.
Brian.
Please go ahead, Brian. Open your line.
Sorry about that. I'd like to hear from both the General and the Premier, if I could, on this. The federal government has been posting the expected deliveries from both Pfizer and Moderna on their website for some time. Obviously, when Pfizer started being reduced, they removed Pfizer. Today, they removed the Moderna doses expected for the week of February 22nd through 28th. And I'm wondering, given the reductions, the no vaccines delivered last week that we've seen, how concerned are you that this suddenly was removed from the federal government's website? Have you heard anything directly from the Fed that shipment may not happen?
Well, it's very, very concerning. And when, you're dealing with a province the size of Ontario and the population the size of Ontario, when General Hilliard is being as the job logistically to get these out, and all of a sudden it changes once, and then it changes again, and then it changes again. It makes it very difficult for General Hilliard to do the job. But in saying that, he moves forward. Like a real soldier he is. He doesn't stop.
Like a real soldier.
He just keeps going and going and going. I'll pass it over to you, General.
Going and going ain't the issue.
So, Brian, thank you for the question. And I heard about it just before I came over here to come on to the press conference here. My heart went pitter-patter, quite frankly. I don't know if it's just a number that's disappeared, if it's a computer glitch or an IT glitch, or if there's something else behind it. I'll tell you what has happened, though. With the Pfizer interruptions in supply, we've lost confidence in the supply chain. And that means, despite what the Premier said earlier, we were
there's no chain and there's no supply, there's no chain.
To get to some of those residents in long-term care homes without
Supply
making sure
chain,
we
there's
have
no
one for
product.
each person we have given a needle to already in our inventory. And so we got caught a little tiny bit. We won't be caught again for the immediate future until we rebuild that confidence in the Pfizer supply line. With Moderna, the deliveries are 3 weeks and more apart. We know when they're scheduled. So because of that time frame, we have to keep the second dose in sight. And that, of course, both of those things now slow our delivery program until we have that confidence rebuilt, particularly when we went down for this coming days here, some 20 to 25% the number of Moderna vaccines we were supposed to receive. Look, I don't know if something more severe than an IT glitch caused that number to disappear. I don't know if somebody was updating it to make it actually more, which we'd love to see. I'm simply crossing my fingers, hoping that we are not going to see a further reduction in Moderna. And I know that the team is communicating to Ottawa now and talking to Ottawa to determine exactly why that number disappeared, and if it's just a number disappearing or if there's something more serious behind it. So I can't answer exactly what it might mean, Brian. We are going to watch our second dose of Moderna for those we're giving needles to right now and over this next week to make sure we have it when they come due.
Follow-up?
The announcement by the Prime Minister today about the plant in Montreal that will be ready sometime in July or August, and then, according to Minister Champagne, will produce vaccines by the end of this year. I'm wondering, Premier, I know you've spoken to leaders in the pharmaceutical industry here. Do you get the sense that some of the simpler vaccines, like the AstraZeneca, Johnson & Johnson, or Novavax, could be produced in Ontario or elsewhere in Canada with a bit of dedication and planning? Because this seems to be a plan that focuses on one plant that is still under construction and won't be ready for another 12 months.
Yeah, well, first of all, I think it's a good decision that they're moving forward. I always get criticized. I always say armchair quarterbacks to people and so on. I don't want to play the armchair quarterback with the Fed's decision. If you would have come to Ontario, we have a building. We have endless buildings. It was ready. I'd love to plug into some of the other pharmaceutical companies. I will be speaking to one of the large ones this afternoon, and it'd be a lot easier. Just come over, set up the line, and hopefully we'd be able to get them in a month or two, rather than build a new building. And hopefully we'll have everyone vaccinated by that time. But a good question, Brian. I just don't feel comfortable criticizing the process of any other level of government. Everyone's working well together, working collaboratively, so at least it's a move in the right direction.
Premier Jamie, initial reports right now, but it looks like 2 officers have been injured in an altercation, of almost a routine altercation in Etobicoke. First of all, do you know any more, and your reaction?
Well, first of all, I think the world of our men and women that serve day in and day out. And it's literally, I just found out while I was walking down the hallway here, it's down the street from our family home that thousands of people have been to. So, it's concerning. And I just want to wish the 2 police officers that are at Sunnybrook all the very best. A speedy recovery. I'll be giving you both a personal phone call when you're up and at it again. But we have to protect our police at all costs. They put their lives on the line every single day. And imagine, and there's a lot of jobs like that, but imagine leaving your house every day, kissing your kids goodbye and your spouse goodbye, and not knowing if you're going to come back. I love our police. Simple as that. And I think I'm going to pass this to the Solicitor General. As we say, she's the top cop. So, and I know she loves our police.
How is she the top cop? You guys make shit up as you go.
Thank you. No further details other than the fact that, of course, the 2 injuries to our Toronto police officers, and just echoing what the Premier said, you know, we've invested a lot of time and a lot of power into making sure that our police have the resources they need to protect our communities, to keep our streets safe. So I just thoughts and prayers to the officers, and we'll share more details as we can make them happen. Thank you.
And is that it? So, okay, so I just want to give a shout out. I want to give a shout out to a few folks in the media. And I'm not going to mention the outlet or the people, but they ended up getting laid off a lot of people today, and that's heartbreaking. I just want to tell you, keep your chin up. You're going to come back. You're going to get back on your feet. And you know something, maybe you'll find a career within the media, or you might find it outside the media. But I know, you know, when you go through tough times, you sit back and think the world's coming
going through a complex.
Please stay positive.
Multi-unit houses.
You'll come back stronger than ever.
They saw a guy with a knife and he stabbed him on a well-being check or a wellness check.
I appreciate the tough questions, the other questions. You are eyes and ears out there. There's only so much we can cover in a big province, and we rely on you. So I do appreciate the job that you do, and for the men and women that are laid off today, stay positive. Things will get better. So thank you, and God bless. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
And you've been listening to the Premier's COVID briefing, a bit of a vaccination update today here on 680 News. We'll have a full rundown on what the Premier had to say coming up in just a few moments. This is 680 News.
So the Prime Minister announcing a new deal today to get COVID-19 vaccines made right here in Canada. Here's our Parliament Hill reporter, Cormac McSweeney.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau using his COVID update to the nation to announce the feds have signed a tentative deal with U.S.-based Novavax to have the company's COVID vaccine produced at the new National Research Council lab in Montreal.
This is a major step forward to get vaccines made in Canada for Canadians.
But the facility is not expected to finish construction until later in the summer, and the industry minister now says shops won't actually start to roll out until likely the end of the year. The Prime Minister suggested our domestic capacity is a part of a long-term strategy as the world starts to deal with COVID variants, and we figure out if people will need booster or annual COVID shots to fight the virus. The Fed's also making investments in Vancouver's precision nanosystems.
You know it's going to happen.
Those companies can eventually produce vaccines and therapeutic drugs. The announcement comes as concerns grow that new export controls in the European Union could impact Canada's vaccine supply.
Export, like the cigarettes, dog, like the cigarettes.
C'est de l'amour, vraiment, et c'est aussi de l'admiration que, en fait, je connaissais assez peu. Et, disons, une icône, une des grandes icônes parmi d'autres dans cette fin de siècle qui en produit beaucoup d'ailleurs, si nous pensons aux lumières radicales. Oui. Et donc, il était un peu distant, un peu vague, et ce qui m'a permis justement de creuser et de lui donner vie.
General as well, did we ever ask Pfizer whether we could actually move the vaccine, or did we just take Pfizer at its word that they were not to be moved?
I'll pass it over to General Miller.
No, we took the advice of our medical professionals and our pharmacists who were in constant discussion with the Health Canada, the NACI for immunization guidelines and Pfizer itself. And we did not have permission to move the vaccine until, in fact, we started doing the protocols in early January to give us the protocols to be able to actually move it. And so, no, we didn't make a decision just to go by what Pfizer said and not ask any question. There was constant communication back and forth, constantly increasing the knowledge of the vaccine itself. I know what Israel did. We talked to the Minister of Health from Israel last Tuesday. We were inspired by the fact that the vast majority of what they are doing, we are also doing. We have also encountered, we have also planned to do if we have not done it yet. We took the advice of our medical professionals working with Health Canada, NACI, and Pfizer to make the decision to move Pfizer when the company said it was right to do and the protocols were in place.
We'll take one more reporter from the phone before we move to the floor.
Question from Brian Lilly at the Toronto Sun. Please go ahead.
Brian.
Please go ahead, Brian. Open your line.
Sorry about that. I'd like to hear from both the General and the Premier, if I could, on this. The federal government has been posting the expected deliveries from both Pfizer and Moderna on their website for some time. Obviously, when Pfizer started being reduced, they removed Pfizer. Today, they removed the Moderna doses expected for the week of February 22nd through 28th. And I'm wondering, given the reductions, the no vaccines delivered last week that we've seen, how concerned are you that this suddenly was removed from the federal government's website? Have you heard anything directly from the Fed that shipment may not happen?
Well, it's very, very concerning. And when, you're dealing with a province the size of Ontario and the population the size of Ontario, when General Hillier and his team has the job logistically to get these out, and all of a sudden it changes once, and then it changes again, and then it changes again. It makes it very difficult for General Hillier to do the job. But in saying that, he moves forward. Like a real soldier he is. He doesn't stop. It doesn't matter how many changes. He just keeps going and going and going. I'll pass it over to you, General.
So, Brian, thank you for the question. And I heard about it just before I came over here to come on to the press conference here. My heart went pitter-patter, quite frankly. I don't know if it's just a number that's disappeared, if it's a computer glitch or an IT glitch, or if there's something else behind it. I'll tell you what has happened, though. With the Pfizer interruptions in supply, we've lost confidence in the supply chain. And that means, despite what the Premier said earlier, we were leaning forward and using some of the second doses to get to some of those residents in long-term care homes without making sure we had one for each person we had given the needle to already in our inventory. And so we got caught a little tiny bit. We won't be caught again for the immediate future until we rebuild that confidence in the Pfizer supply line. With Moderna, the deliveries are 3 weeks and more apart. We know when they're scheduled. So because of that time frame, we have to keep the second dose in sight. And that, of course, both of those things now slow our delivery program until we have that confidence rebuilt, particularly when we went down for this coming days here, some 20 to 25% the number of Moderna vaccines we were supposed to receive. Look, I don't know if something more severe than an IT glitch caused that number to disappear. I don't know if somebody was updating it to make it actually more, which we'd love to see. I'm simply crossing my fingers, hoping that we are not going to see a further reduction in Moderna. And I know that the team is communicating to Ottawa now and talking to Ottawa to determine exactly why that number disappeared, and if it's just a number disappearing or if there's something more serious behind it. So I can't answer exactly what it might mean, Brian. We are going to watch our second dose of Moderna for those we're giving needles to right now and over this next week to make sure we have it when they come due.
Follow up?
The announcement by the Prime Minister today about the plant in Montreal that will be ready sometime in July or August, and then, according to Minister Champagne, will produce vaccines by the end of this year. I'm wondering, Premier, I know you've spoken to leaders in the pharmaceutical industry here. Do you get the sense that some of the simpler vaccines, like the AstraZeneca, Johnson & Johnson, or Novavax, could be produced in Ontario or elsewhere in Canada with a bit of dedication and planning? Because this seems to be a plan that focuses on one plant that is still under construction and won't be ready for another 12 months.
Vaccine, they're gonna have to.
Yeah, well, first of all, I think it's a good decision that they're moving forward. I always get criticized. I always say armchair quarterbacks to people and so on. I don't want to play the armchair quarterback with the Fed's decision. If you would have come to Ontario, we have a building, we have endless buildings. It was ready. I'd love to plug into some of the other pharmaceutical companies. I will be speaking to one of the large ones this afternoon. And it'd be a lot easier. Just come over, set up the line, and hopefully we'd be able to get them in a month or two, rather than build a new building. And hopefully we'll have everyone vaccinated by that time. But a good question, Brian. I just don't feel comfortable criticizing the process of any other level of government. Everyone's working well together, working collaboratively, so at least it's a move in the right direction.
All right, we'll cut in there. There's the Premier Doug Ford this afternoon, flanked by retired General Rick Hillier, the head of our vaccination task force. A couple of things coming out of that press conference here this afternoon. The Premier, you just heard him saying he's not really wanting to criticize other levels of government, albeit at the beginning of that presser, he was asked whether or not he still has faith in the federal government and their promise that all Canadians will be vaccinated if they choose by September. He didn't exactly give a vote of confidence when asked that question. And also, I thought rather eye-opening is the fact that General Hillier has had to change his plans, his vaccination plans, not once, not twice, but 3 times, and who knows how many more as the vaccination supply continues to fluctuate and not be reliable. Okay, let's get out to the roads again. Another check of global news radio.
Boyfriend trying to take the dog to the vet.
Some really good news. Problems in Mississauga on the Queen Elizabeth Way eastbound at the off-ramp to Erin Mills, all cleaned up. Problems in Mississauga on the 401 eastbound at Mississauga Road, they're gone. The only thing we're left with restricting
for all. Don't forget that better times are just ahead. A reminder from Unifor Local 414.
Out with the old and
Vous faites entrer dans la grande histoire aussi par ce livre, je veux dire, Azarissime, qui vient de paraître en français. C'est une excellente nouvelle chez Flammarion. Merci beaucoup de nous avoir accordé cet entretien en direct d'Oxford ce soir.
Merci de m'avoir accueilli.
No puedo ver que eso a mí me no puedo ver que no puedo pasar que eso a mí me no puedo pasar que no puedo ver que eso a mí me no puedo ver que no puedo pasar que eso a mí me no puedo pasar que
$3.8%. I'm switching to Butler Mortgage.
You see them Quebecois plates driving fast, eh?
Taking care of that clean card feeling. Learn more at shell.ca/taking care. Terms and conditions apply.
What happens when you sleep well? You train well, you focus well, you eat well,
You play well. Whatever your New Year's resolution, it all starts with better sleep. And that begins with Sleep Country. The New Year, New You event is on now. Get great deals on all your sleep essentials like mattresses, bedding, and pillows. Our sleep experts are online at sleepcountry.ca to help you wake up to better sleep. Sleep well, stay well. Sleep Country.
680 News Time, 148.
We have an update on a fatal hit-and-run collision in Mississauga that happened on December the 8th. Peel police say a man has now been charged with failing to stop after an accident resulting in death. This crash happened on Tompkin Road. Police say a 63-year-old woman was struck by a van. 57-year-old Wahid Ahmed of Milton was arrested and charged yesterday. He's been released and is due in court on April 19th. Well, Toronto police officers handed out over 3,800 tickets during the service's recent pedestrian safety campaign. The Windsor Watch Week of Action took place January 25th to the 31st. Officers focused on the big four bad driving behaviors, that's speeding, aggressive driving, distracted driving, and impaired. Over 2,000 tickets were given out for speeding, over 730 for aggressive driving. Nearly 130 tickets were issued for distracted driving. Police say they also suspended 11 licenses for stunt driving and made 10 impaired driving-related arrests. 680 News Time, 149 to the U.S. now, where 2 FBI agents are dead and 3 others are wounded after they were shot during an incident in Sunrise, Florida. That's near Fort Lauderdale. The FBI says the agents were serving a federal search warrant in a case involving violent crimes against children. The suspect also died at some point during the standoff in which he barricaded himself inside a home. And police say 6 people have been shot to death at a home outside Tulsa, Oklahoma, including 5 young children.
Police sent to a house in Muskogee, about 45 miles southeast of Tulsa, found a man holding a gun. When he refused to drop it, an officer fired 1 shot, but the suspect ran from the scene. The bodies of 4 children and a man were then found. A 5th child died on the way to the hospital. A woman also was suffering serious injuries. The man who ran was later caught. He's now being questioned. Jim Ryan, ABC News.
Coming up in 60 seconds, we'll check in with traffic and weather.
680 News Time, 150.
You understand your business better than anyone. And no matter what challenges and opportunities you face, you always find a way to keep moving forward. The BDC understands your reality. As the bank for Canadian entrepreneurs, we provide the financing and advisory services you need to plan your path to the future. We're here for what's ahead, so you never have to look back. BDC, financing, advising, smart.
5-star Google reviews are the best reviews any company can get. This drumbeat represents one. Many companies have some. And this is how many Search Kings has. Search Kings has hundreds of 5-star Google reviews. No wonder Google hand-selected Search Kings as a Google Premier Partner. And they're Canadian. You want to stand out where your customers are online? Switch to Search Kings.
680 News Time, 151.
Time for traffic and weather together all at once. Here's Carrie Prunskis. This report is brought to you by Mark Feldstein and Associates. We may have a new problem on the 401 westbound, just west of Trafalgar. I can see traffic's getting jammed as you approach Trafalgar, but it's just out of our camera range. So any updates appreciated at star 680, but do expect those delays if you're heading that way on the westbound 401. Eastbound 401, that's lightly traveled across the GTA, not seeing any slowdowns or problems. Northbound on the 427, that's jammed up from the 407 onto the Highway 7 ramp. A typical delay heading into the long-term construction area. And we still have roadwork on the 400 in both directions, heading through Highway 7 and the Express. The left lane remains closed, and I'm not seeing any delays right now. The rest of the major routes are all moving well. On city streets, westbound Steeles, that's jammed as you approach Goreway, all due to construction in the right lane, and a little bit busy northbound on Goreway as you approach Steeles as well. They're working in the right lane there too. For all your personal and corporate tax accounting needs, call Mark Feldstein and Associates, Chartered Professional Accountants. Visit markfeldstein.ca. markfeldstein.ca. And now with the extended forecast, here's Jill Taylor.
Near seasonal and on the chilly side today, but mild air on the way Wednesday through to Friday morning, but don't get used to it. It turns a lot colder and that cold air sticks around for most of February. Guaranteed high today, -2, increasing cloud, -6 for the low. Sunshine tomorrow up to +1. Snow moves in late evening overnight for Thursday and a mix of rain and snow for Friday with falling temperatures from a morning high +3. For today, the guaranteed high -2.
Right now in downtown, it's overcast and -3, feeling like -9 when you factor in the wind. Out at Pearson Airport, though, it looks like we have a temperature right now -2, but still feeling like -10. 680 News Time, 1:53.
This extended forecast is brought to you by Liebherr Refrigeration. Save 15% on top-of-the-line fridges, freezers, and wine storage from Liebherr. Visit your luxury appliance retailer or
All it is a cooler that doesn't freeze.
What?
So there's no freezer in it. So the entire thing's
just got a
cooler.
place.
Wow. That was quick.
Yeah. They've been request-free for a while. The lower fees make a big difference. They rave about it.
Well, we're not heading back to the branch anytime soon.
Exactly. If we ever want to move, you gotta get moving.
It's time to switch to Questrade. See how you can retire wealthier with a Questwealth Portfolio's RRSP at questrade.com.
News, 680 News. Be the first to know newsletter.
Brought to you by Diamond and Diamond Lawyers.
Subscribe now at 680news.com/newsletters.
And always be the first to know.
680 News Time, 1:54. It is Groundhog Day, and the famous furry forecasters have made their predictions. It's a day where meteorology degrees don't matter, and we leave the weather prognosticating up to a rodent. It is Groundhog Day. If a groundhog sees its shadow, it means 6 more weeks of winter. No shadow, we can expect an early spring. The first up this morning, Shubenacadie Sam in Nova Scotia.
No shadow. I believe that means an early spring.
In Gobbler's Knob, where they're celebrating the 135th annual prognostication. Brushing up on my groundhoggies, Punxsutawney Phil.
When I turn to see, there's a perfect shadow cast of me. 6 more weeks of winter there will be.
So it all came down to Wyerton Willie, the albino groundhog, marking 65 years to play the tiebreaker.
Official prediction, Willie predicts an early spring.
So there you have it, the Canadian groundhogs predicting an early spring. I'm Laura Carney. Coming up in business news in 60 seconds, decent gains on markets for a second straight day.
680 News Time, 1:55.
Your head says, make sound investments for the future. But your heart says, invest in that new sound system right now. With Advice Plus from Scotiabank, we can help you balance both, so you can live for today and save for tomorrow. Working together, we'll build a plan and add investment solutions along the way. So, the plan that helps you invest for tomorrow can still sound fantastic today. Get started at scotiabank.com/investing. Advice Plus, only from Scotiabank.
Tonight on CBC.
Ooh, something special?
The moment you've been waiting for. Welcome back to Kims and Radio. TJ Upper Kim. The Kims are back, and we got front row seats. For real? Yes. Very good.
Perfect.
And there's lots in store.
I don't want to talk about it, but it's only good to talk about. Talk about
Kim's Convenience. New episode. Tonight at 8 on CBC and CBC Gem.
680 News Time, 1:56.
And now the 680 News Business Report. Here's Chris McCusker.
Well, Sarah, we got to check on GameStop because that's kind of been a thing the last week or so. Taking a hit for a second straight day. Right now it's down 51%. That's off the low for the day, but it's also still looking at it potentially its worst day ever after this unbelievable run in the last week. The app Robinhood is further easing restrictions. And also keep in mind, the stock was down 44% last Thursday before rebounding by 68% the next day. So it's not really clear if this so-called Reddit rally is over just yet. Steve Rogers is investment strategist at IG Wealth.
There was something going on, so that's where the attention was. But that doesn't mean that there was anything systemic going on that one should be frighten you into abandoning your plan that you'd if you're working with a financial advisor, the idea is that you've crafted something to achieve specific goals over a reasonable time frame. You've considered your risk preferences, tax considerations, income needs, return expectations, all this stuff, that it makes absolutely no sense to blow that all up over short-term fluctuation in a couple of stocks that happens to catch your attention.
Now, we do have Wall Street moving higher with the Dow up by 543. The S&P is actually looking potentially at its best day since November. The Nasdaq higher by 229. Now, GameStop is lower, and Bitcoin right now is higher. It's up by about 5%, 35,330 US. The TSX higher for a second straight day. It's up by 191, 17,884. Getting a lift today from shares in BRP. This is the maker of Sea-Doos and Ski-Doos. The stock hit an all-time high today, 92.42. The company says it plans to roll out electric-powered products within the next 3 years in an effort to sustain growth.
Why? Because way up north they got snowmobiles, so they must have gasoline barrels. It's just how it is. And yeah, kids, and not just kids, but for adults too, huff gasoline.
And the Canadian
dollar
up by
suicidal with the price. Why not diesel?
78.06 cents US.
It would reduce the chance of them burning up their lungs and shit inside when they get blown up.
Since the dawn of time, humans have been pursuing food. First in open plains and lush forests, and later in the crowded aisles of grocery stores. Today, that pursuit is over. With good food, you can get delicious ready-to-cook meals like caramelized onion baked cheese tortellini delivered right to your home. Because some things are better left in the past. Good food, eating evolved. Visit makegoodfood.ca.
Across Canada, 35,000 people are homeless each night. Many don't have access to doctors or the health care they need. That's something we're helping to change. TELUS Health for Good brings medical and mental health care directly to those who need it most. Our mobile health clinics bring compassionate care to the streets of 13 communities across Canada, including here in the GTA. Learn more about our mobile health clinics at TELUS.com/health-for-good. Let's make the future friendly, together.
Now, 680 News regional weather conditions for IA Private Wealth, Canada's choice for professional, trusted advice that's uniquely tailored for every stage of your financial journey. Visit iaprivatewealth.ca.
In Newmarket, a few clouds. -6. Oakville, mostly sunny and -2. Downtown Toronto, it's also -2 under a partly cloudy sky. Feels like -8. This is CFTR 680 News. It's 2 o'clock.
Toronto's #1 for breaking news, traffic, and weather.
This is Tuesday, the 2nd of February. I'm Steve Roberts.
And I'm Sarah Parrott. Here's what's making news this hour.
2 Toronto police officers hurt in a violent encounter. Came out, said nothing to them, was armed with a knife, and immediately attacked. It happened while searching a rooming house for a missing person.
It's the first city council meeting of the new year, and there is a lot to talk about, including several pandemic-related items and changing response to mental health calls.
I've had that happen.
Premier Doug Ford and the head of Ontario's COVID-19 vaccine task force expressed frustration.
In other words, you broke into somebody's house and shot the guy, right?
The federal government signs a new deal to produce COVID vaccines here in Canada, but it will be the end of the year before we start to see the shots roll off the line. Wayne Simmons has moved up to the second line at Leafs practice today.
So I had a cop opening up my window.
Over the Magic, Sports at 15.
Solid gains on both sides of the border ahead of some big earnings reports after the closing bell. And shares in GameStop get hit again. Business at 26. 680 News Time, 2:01.
All right, now time for traffic and weather together on the ones. And with Toronto's most frequent traffic reports, here's Carrie Prunskis.
The heaviest route right now is the northbound 427 up at the top end. You'll find a jam up from the 407 onto the Highway 7 ramp, but no delays on the rest of the major routes. Traffic spotters letting me know that westbound on the 401 west of Trafalgar, whatever was happening there is gone, and it's now smooth sailing through that area. Eastbound 401, that's lightly traveled across the GTA. We have a new problem in town, northbound on Markham Road, north of Ellesmere at Tuxedo. The right lane is blocked because of a stalled vehicle, so watch out for that. And keep in mind some construction in Brampton at Steeles and Goreway. We have lane restrictions heading westbound and northbound. It's particularly heavy westbound on Steeles as you approach Goreway. Your next traffic report is at 2:11. Now with the forecast, here's Jill Taylor.
Clouds will take over as we work through the afternoon. A strong gusty wind, our guaranteed high -2. We'll clear again tonight. A north wind -6 will feel like -14 overnight. For today, the guaranteed high, -2.
Right now in downtown Toronto, it is partly cloudy, -2. It feels like -8. 680 News Time, 2:02.
We are following some breaking news right now from the city's West End, where 2 Toronto police officers have been hurt following an incident near Royal York and Lawrence Avenue West.
680's Mark Douglas is following this for us and joins us live with what we know so far.
Does the rooming house have a license?
Sarah, a Toronto police sergeant is in hospital with 2 serious slash wounds from a knife attack, and another officer suffered minor injuries. The same attack it all happened here at this rooming house this morning here at the corner of Wistona and Lockheed. Police Chief James Raymer says this actually began last night with Peel Regional Police, says they were conducting a search for a missing person.
They attended here and located some blood in the missing person's apartment and contacted us and the Toronto Police Service, and we attended with them here.
But the missing man, 56-year-old Nathaniel Brunel, was not found. So Toronto police came back this morning, and after officers had...
Wait, how long did you leave that
individual in one of the rooms they didn't know previously was occupied, came out, said nothing to them.
Didn't know it was occupied.
Was armed with a knife and immediately attacked some of the officers that were on scene.
Good, because you're not supposed to be going into people's houses, and you know that.
Still missing. Reporting live near Lawrence and Royal
I've only been doing this 200 years, eh?
Well, happening today, the province updating its vaccine rollout that, of course, has been hampered, of course, by a lack of supply. Now, we did hear from the Premier today, got some reaction on that. And 680's Irene Preckler has been following all those details and joins us live now with more. Irene?
Steve, supply delays mean Ontario won't meet its goal of giving all nursing home residents the first dose of a COVID vaccine by Friday. Instead, it will happen by February 10th.
Getting vaccinated is our path to normal.
No, it's not.
Premier Ford says the province has the
You will be
ability to
considered
vaccinate
normal
the masses, but
if you
it's
get
a question of
vaccinated.
supplies. We deal with reductions, from both approved vaccine makers. General Rick Hillier, the head of the vaccine task force, said
I got sickle
there
cell.
is a lot of confidence in the supply chain.
And so we are at a bit of a drought, there is no question. Yesterday I was out to Guelph and visited the public health unit Guelph and looked at their mass vaccination site, which was empty. I went to Sunnybrook Hospital and their mass vaccination site and looked at it, which was empty.
Health officials also say they are not currently holding back doses in order to ensure second shots. Reporting live, Irene
because that was your previous idea last time. We're going to count to 2 a different way, and there will be more than 2 somehow.
However, it will be a long wait before that happens. With more details, here's our Parliament Hill reporter, Cormac McSweeney.
Since the pandemic began, there have been questions about when or if Canada would produce its own vaccines. Now the Prime Minister announcing a memorandum of understanding with Novavax to produce the company's COVID vaccine at a new National Research Council lab in Montreal. The company could pump out 2 million doses of
Wait. National Research Council, isn't that government? Are you going to give them a factory?
Health Canada approval for the vaccine is likely a couple of months away. Construction on the lab won't finish until late summer, and the industry minister says the shots likely won't roll off the manufacturing line until the end of the year. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau admits that domestic production is more of a longer-term goal, noting it's not clear what will happen with the virus in the years ahead, if people will need boosters or annual shots like the flu.
We don't know what
the future looks
like for a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now.
You don't know,
it's
after somebody already told you.
We'll be developing domestic manufacturing, so regardless of what could happen in the future, we will have domestic production.
The Fed's also announcing cash for Vancouver's Precision Nanosystems to help expand facilities so they can eventually start producing vaccines. Cormac McSweeney, Parliament Hill.
Well, City Council has been meeting today to discuss a report from Toronto's top doctor recommending that we extend our current COVID bylaws.
What about we're also getting we're eliminating the police from mental health response calls
when it comes to police and their response. And keeping an eye on everything this afternoon is 680's Momin Qureshi, who joins us live now with the latest. Momin?
Steve, I'm just looking at my screen, seeing councillors return, almost at the council chambers, virtual meeting, so just return to their seats for the resumption of the city council meeting following the lunch break. Now they're going to pick up where they left off, but just talking about that pilot project you were mentioning, which would create a non-police-led response to non-violent or critical mental health calls people who need wellness checks.
Oh, but standard police trainings, all mental health calls are violent. Statistics say that the domestics are the worst, but
next year here is meritorious.
the police are like trained mentally to shoot anything that's labeled as crazy.
With the best advice from our professional staff, and they will help Toronto residents who are experiencing in their lives a non-violent crisis. These are the first important steps along the road to having these calls for people in distress answered by professionals other than the police.
Now we're at the point of the meeting right now where councillors and the mayor are going to put forward motions to try to change things up and potentially speed up this process, which is supposed to be fully implemented by 2026. Reporting live, I'm Omi Qureshi.
Captain Sir Tom Moore has died after testing positive for COVID-19. He was 100 years old.
Captain Tom Moore in a ceremony over the summer where Queen Elizabeth made him Captain Sir Tom Moore, his knighthood. A thank you for the money he raised.
Isn't it Sir Captain Tom? I don't know. That's a good question.
As a fundraiser for the National Health Service. His death confirmed by tweet with a simple photograph of him smiling and his name, as well as the years he lived, 1920 through 2021. Moore's daughter, Hannah Ingram Moore, says for the past few weeks her father had been treated for pneumonia. And last week,
he had to do with that Y2K thing for real.
Sherry Preston, ABC News.
Well, some employees at Boeing.
Sir, you can't be negative 22 years old.
Lost billions of dollars last
year.
Boeing will be doling out annual performance bonuses next month to most employees, despite losing $12 billion over the last year during the coronavirus pandemic. Most of the company's employees did not receive annual bonuses last year, and in response, the company changed the structure of its incentive plan. It has now tied its financial goals to the timing of the first delivery of a 737 MAX after its ungrounding. Now, that plane was cleared to fly in the US in November, and the company delivered its first plane in December, ensuring there would be a bonus under the new incentive plan. Bonuses were previously paid out based on profits. At the Business Center, I'm Chris McCusker.
And this portion of 680 News has been brought to you today by ultimatedental.com.
680 News Time, 2:09.
All right, fuck this. I got shit to do. We'll return shortly.
Taking a bit of a break, but your dental health shouldn't.
Like
At Ultimate Dental, our
babies
advanced cleaning and sterilization
viruses.
protocols will help